The damning 213-page report labels official Israeli actions against Palestinians as discriminatory intent and is based on years of Human Rights Watch documentation, reviews of Israeli government statements and planning documents, and case studies.
Admitting that reality is important because it speaks to the depth of the suffering imposed on so many Palestinians. Now, many people have averted their eyes from this reality in the hope that the peace process will somehow solve the problem. We all would love to see a political resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but we shouldn't be kidding ourselves. This protracted process does not justify an intolerable status quo. After nearly 54 years of occupation, after 30 years of a peace process, we cannot ignore the ugly reality today. The Israeli government is committing the crimes of apartheid.
The report highlights 5 key areas of abuses: sweeping movement restrictions of Palestinians defined by a permit regime, mass expropriation of Palestinian land amounting to more than 2,000 square kilometers, coercive policies that make it impossible for Palestinians to build homes and schools, denial of residency rights to Palestinians in the occupied territory, and mass suspension of civil rights for 4.7 million Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. They also dismiss arguments that the 3 decades-long peace process would deliver a reprieve from the incremental repression.
Such an approach has lost whatever credibility it may once have had. While peace talks went nowhere, the situation grew more entrenched, while Israeli leaders made clear their intention to hold on to most or all of the West Bank forever. Discrimination based on whether you are a Palestinian or an Israeli Jew permeates all aspects of life.
Human Rights Watch says they reached out to the Israeli government to discuss their concerns last year but received no response, and addressed expected criticism the report might elicit.
We know that people who don't like to see Israel criticized often use the accusation of anti-Semitism. We make very clear in this report that the crime of apartheid is committed by individuals in the Israeli Authority. It is not an accusation against the Israeli people, and it is certainly not an accusation against Jews. Secondly, the accusation is made that we focus on Israel. This is absolutely false. We have, our record of coverage, as my colleague Ken Roth has said, of all of Israel's neighbors. We've also called the situation in Myanmar just last year one of apartheid practiced against the Rohingya people. Just last week, we accused Chinese authorities of practicing the crime against humanity of persecution against the Muslim Xinjiang population. So the accusation that we focus on one country is patently false.
Urging the international community to adjust their relations with Israel to meet the moment, including targeted sanctions and possible investigations from the International Criminal Court.
Based on these grave findings, we call on the international community to take a range of steps in line with where we found crimes against humanity in other contexts. All these recommendations aim to end complicity in the crimes.
In a statement, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, called the report a collection of lies and fabrications, bordering on anti-Semitic, and part of Human Rights Watch's ongoing campaign against Israel. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.